Today I'll be showing you how to make a biltong box from scratch with quite a cheap array of materials, and we'll also be going through how to make the recipe that I use to make my biltong. So starting off, what we've got just a standard plastic storage box here. This is a 100-litre storage box, and this is going to be our base for everything. So going through the materials we're going to use today, what we've got here is we've got 2 computer fans. I'm not putting any kind of light in this box. We're just going to try and make it work off air circulation without any kind of heat. It should work. This will create a lot of airflow in it. If there's any problems later on with the first batch in terms of temperature or humidity in the box, then we'll add a heat lamp later on to help that out. This is a regulator pack, and what this does is it takes our 12-volt fans and bumps it up so that we can plug it into the wall and just run it off normal power. And lastly, our mosquito net. This is just a $5 window mosquito net, but what we're going to do is cut it up and use it to protect the holes so that we can't get any bugs into the box. This wooden dowel, this is going to be used to hang our meat off in the box. So let's get installing and I'll show you how to do it. Alrighty, we're going to start off with our placing our first wooden dowel supports. What these are going to do is they will run across the 2 sides of the box, and that's going to allow us to then put more dowels through the middle, which will space out our meat. So these will be running through that end there and that end there. What we'll do is we're going to come 30mm in from each corner. And then from the top down, we're going to allow also 30mm. So there on both sides, we have both our crosses here and here, and the same on the other side. You need to be quite exact with your measurements, because if one side is too high or too low, then your racks are just going to end up sliding across through the middle. So our dowel here is 10mm, and we pretty much want to go exactly a 10mm hole. If you allow any more and there's room, dust, bugs, dirt is going to get inside, which you don't want. Perfect, so there's our dowel slid through there. Alright, so from here what we're going to do is we're going to put some holes through the bottom here. That's going to be our airflow intake, if you want to think of it like that. So that's where the air will get sucked in through the bottom and then past all the meat and out the fans at the top that we're going to install. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 2 holes on each side. To allow them. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller than my fan, probably think about 40mm, something like that. So you want to put these holes as close to the bottom as you can, and that will allow the maximum air to get sucked out of the box. If you have them too high, you're just going to have a level of air sitting here that isn't going to get taken out. Okay, so what we want with these fans is we want the air being extracted from the box. We don't want the air being blown into the box. So these fans need to be mounted the right way. To tell, most fans actually tell you on them the direction of flow. So for these ones, it's got an air flow arrow saying that the airflow goes this way when the fan's on. So what we're going to do is mount them that way, and that's going to be extracting the air out. We're going to use a hole saw again. This hole saw is just the same size as the fan, with still allowing us to get to the fixing points. What we'll do is we'll do this over a bucket so that we can get a hole saw all the way through. the screws aren't wanting to work very nicely on this plastic, so what we're going to do is we're going to hot glue the fan on instead. It's going to make life a lot easier, and also it could even act as a bit more of a sealer than the screws we're going to do. Tack these in place with the hot glue. So now we've tacked the two fans in place, what we're going to do is we're going to run the hot glue all around the edges. So these come pre-made with two clips on the end, so what we're going to do is snip them off so that we can wire them up to our positive and negatives. Positives on these are red and black, yellow is just to send information to the computer, so we'll get rid of those. So this here's our adapter. This is what takes the 12 volts for the fans and transforms it to a power socket. What we'll take that end off, and what we've got there is a positive and negative terminal. We need to figure out which terminal goes to what. It's on our voltmeter. In that configuration it gives us 12 volts, which is what we want. So that means that side's positive and this side's negative. If you were to swap it round, your voltmeter would read minus 12 volts, so that means that your polarity is wrong. So reading positive 12 is what we want. So what we'll do is we'll mark on here positive, so we'll switch those fans on now. And they're running properly the way we want to. And if you can feel them, you can tell you've done it right, because the air's pushing into your hands rather than sucking your hands down on. What we need to do is we need to close these holes up at the bottom here to stop insects coming in. So using this cheap fly screen, what we'll do is we'll cut some squares out of it, and then we'll tape those over the openings. Right, so our holes are 40 mils, so what we'll do is we'll cut 60mm squares out of this to make sure that we've got enough coverage as well on both sides. What we'll do here is with this tape and our little squares, we're just going to tape it over the holes. That'll hold it more than enough. I've cut 5 of these dowels, and they're going to sit across the top of the box, and that's what we will hang our meat from. So that's the box all finished. Nicely sealed. Chuck the fans on, and we're good to go. Let's go make some biltong. Right, so for my biltong recipe here, what I've got is 2 kgs of silverside. You can use topside or rump or whatever kind of meats you want. This is beef. You can use ostrich, deer, whatever you really want. Here we've got a pre-made biltong salt and seasoning, and this is our marinade here. This is a brown spirit vinegar. This has got a little bit of alcohol in it, which is good, I like, because it helps in the preserving process rather than just your standard vinegar off the shelf. Pyrex dish here for putting our steaks into marinade. So for this is a nice marbly piece of silverside with a good layer of fat on the bottom, which is going to give us a nice chew at the end of it. So for this, what I'll do, sharp knife, right, and we're just going to slice this into whatever thickness we like. So what I'll do is I'm going to do a couple of thicker pieces, which will hopefully be a bit more tender, and I'll do some thin pieces which will be a lot drier when they come out after 4 days. We're going to put a thin layer in the bottom of the dish here. You just want it to pull, you don't want heaps of vinegar in there. Light sprinkling of your seasonings. And then lay your pieces flat here into the dish. We'll let that sit for an hour in there, and then we'll come back to it in an hour and we'll flip all the pieces over, making sure that they're both well marinated on each side. We'll cover that for now and pop that into the fridge. Alright, so now our meat's done marinating for 2 hours. So we're going to get ready to hang it. What I picked up was, I picked up these plastic hooks, which are great. I was going to use metal, but from experience, vinegar actually reacts with the metal and you get a bit of oxidization, so I didn't want that in my meat, so we're going to go with these plastic ones. So all I'll do is, they've got a sharp point on them, we'll just poke them through that way. Like that. And then lay them in this bowl. We just want to get a bit of the vinegar off anything excess before we hang them, just because it's a waste if we're filling the box up with more moisture. From here we're going to hang our meat, and we're going to use these dowels that we cut before. Main thing about this is allowing enough space between the meat. You don't want anything touching, you don't want the meat touching the sides, you want a good gap between that, just allows better airflow between all the meat and you'll get a lot better drying. So start by just hanging perfect. So that's all our meat there, perfectly spaced out. What I've done is I've put a layer of paper towels in the bottom just to take all of the vinegar and the juices that are dripping off. That'll stop after a day or so, once everything starts drying out. So I'm going to leave these in here for about 3-4 days really. Some are going to dry at different times than the other ones. As before, when I showed you, we cut some pieces thicker and some pieces thinner. Thinner pieces are going to be a lot drier than the thicker pieces. And if you wanted them even dry, you could take out the thinner pieces a bit early and leave the thicker pieces in till the end. You can taste as you go and see what you prefer. Take a bit out, cut a bit off, have a taste. If you're not happy with it, keep it back in for a while. So we'll put the lid on this. Everything inside's been cleaned thoroughly before we started, from dust and dirt from the workshop when we built this box. So we'll get these fans going. And there you have it. Hey guys, so the biltong's been in here for 3 days now. So let's have a look at how it's going. It's looking pretty good. What we'll do is we're going to take out one of the thinner pieces and have a look at that. I might keep the fatter pieces in for another day, just another 24 hours of drying, because they are still a bit tender on the inside, they feel like, and I prefer mine a bit drier. So we'll see how one of these goes. So there we go. Nice and dry, but still with a bit of tenderness on the inside. Thanks guys for watching my first ever YouTube tutorial. I hope you liked it and I hope it wasn't too hard to follow. If you want to see any of my previous projects, you can go to Munro Construction on Instagram and they're all there. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one.